Good morning, Alter Eagle. I wanted to come on and get this started off really quickly today just by wishing you all a happy Christmas, a happy New Year, a happy Hanukkah, whatever it is you're celebrating this time of year. Make sure that you are being kind to yourself and also taking as much time as you can to put down your phones. Now, obviously, if you were to put your phone down right now, if that's how you're listening, then you wouldn't be hearing my voice. But it's a good reminder for us to make sure that we are really in the moment and present. So something that I want to continue to work on in the new year, I wouldn't say it's a resolution. I'm not sure how I feel about resolutions. I think aggressive resolutions, like I'm going to lose all this weight and I'm going to do this. If that's what's going to make you feel good, do it. Live your life. But I don't think it necessarily means resolution means that we have to change, right? A resolution could be as simple as a mindset or the awareness of how often you are on your phone at the dinner table or when you get home from work with your kids. So just something to think about. If there was one thing that you really wanted to hone in on, and after a while it becomes a habit, and then you go to the next thing. But for me, I have quite a few. I'm opening myself up this next year to really continuing to financially have growth. I don't know if that is the way that I want to say that, but it's just something I've mentioned before as my finances and really trying to get myself in a place where I used to be, where if something would have gone wrong, I could have taken care of it. And in the last few years, that hasn't been the case. So my focus is finances for sure, continuing on my mental health journey, continuing to get out and explore and see new things. I mean, I grew up here and there are so many things that I haven't experienced. I don't remember the last time I was at McConnell's Mills and went hiking. I don't remember the last time I went to Moraine. I don't remember the last time I even went up to Erie just to go up there. You know, we have this amazing part of the country where there's so much for us to explore, and we're so close to all of these other things, right? We're not far from New York State, Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia. There's so many opportunities for us to explore and just learn. So I want to inspire all of you, or I hope to inspire all of you, to make plans in the new year to get out of your comfort zone a little bit more. Find something that you really want to hone in on, whether it's being mindful of the time you spend on your devices or the time you spend watching television, whatever it might be. You don't even have to announce it, right? Just make it a thing that you promise to yourself and just take it day by day. With that being said, being mindful of the holiday season and the staff here, I am taking the last 2 weeks from the podcast off. Doesn't mean I'm not working. We won't have episodes. The next episode for Alter Eagle will drop on January 6th. Coming into the new year, going to be continuing some conversations, but have a really exciting project next year coming up. So again, if you haven't ever reached out to me, please find us on Instagram, Facebook, Alter Eagle Podcast. And if you want to send me a message, go ahead and just send me a DM on Instagram. And if you're not on social media and you'd like to reach out, my email is lcrago, so LCRAGO at butlereagle.com, all one word, BUTLEREAGLE.com. I'd love to hear from you. This episode is brought to you by Robert Stevens Jewelers. Thank you to our sponsors for your support on our first season of the Alter Eagle podcast. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. For a long time, I suffered with depression and anxiety. I had tried therapy before, but struggled finding a therapist I connected with until I found BetterHelp. That's why I am so excited to share BetterHelp's mission to make therapy more affordable and more accessible, because finding a therapist can be hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online. Remote therapy sessions, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. Click the link in description and receive 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. And by clicking that link, you support this channel. Plus, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. I was struggling for a long time, and BetterHelp was where I found my therapist, Whitney, who I still see weekly for almost 2 years now. So, if you're struggling, like I was, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in description or go to betterhelp.com/altereagle. That's betterhelp.com/altereagle. There's no better time than now to start your mental health journey. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. I'm sitting here today, Allie Palmer, Rob McLafferty, and Patrick Kresh. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Say hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
So this is the first time I'm meeting Rob and Patrick, but Allie and I met last week. So Allie is the EMS Academy recruiter here for Butler County Community College. You have been an EMT for 6 years now. Grew up in Slippery Rock. Did you go to Slippery Rock High School and college? Did you go to university?
I did.
All right. So tell us a little bit more about what you do, Allie, here and just in life.
Okay, so my role here is really exciting, really cool. I just started here in April. New program, new job, new me. But so my job here is to help promote the EMS Academy. You want to talk about the EMS Academy a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Get in it. Get in it.
Perfect. So the EMS Academy has been very kindly funded by Butler County, the county commissioners. Very appreciative of them. It is a 8-week EMT program, and after those 8 weeks, you are fully licensed to work as an EMT. It is grant funded, so it includes tuition, books, testing fees, evoc, literally everything that you need. And then also the students are paid a stipend of $13 an hour while they are in class.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is super cool.
Makes me want to go back to school.
Next class is in March.
I wish I had the time. I wish I had the time.
It's in March?
It's in March.
Okay.
I figured it would have started in like January.
March?
Yeah, so it starts in March. And how many weeks is the program again?
It is 8 weeks.
It's 8 weeks. And that's like every day, right? Full time?
It is Monday through Thursday from 8 to 5. You have an hour lunch break in there, so
okay.
Get a little bit of, relief. And then during the weekend, we have an agreement with all of the EMS agencies in Butler County. So the students get to choose which agency they want to go do a ride along with, and either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, they choose where they're going to go, and they typically do about 8 hours there.
Okay, and that's each week they would do that during the 8-week, the total 8-week program?
Starting the second week, they would do that.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. Let's move on to Rob. Rob, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
So Rob has a very impressive resume here. Not to say that, Patrick and Allie don't, but they're still young, right? So, right. And that's, why did I say that? Come on, Laura.
I think they're young. I'm old. It's okay.
I'm in my 40s, so I'm there. I'm letting the gray hair fly. That's just where I'm at. It got to the point where I was like, I'd get my hair colored and I'd walk out of the salon. I'd be like, "There's already one." I'm like, I just wasted my money. So I just
you still have hair. That's good.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
It's easier when you don't have any.
Yeah, I bet it is easier when you don't have it.
Much easier. Allie,
do you still wash your hair though? Because I hear that. Okay, that's a thing for the follicles, right? You still want to keep it.
Well, yeah, you want what's there.
Yeah, of course.
You gotta appreciate what's there.
I like this conversation. This is good. So Rob is the 911 coordinator. He oversees 911 operations. You also do come in during these programs here, or during the EMT program here at BC3, and you do help with some of the training, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. 30 years, paramedic. You've worked in Butler County. You've worked at Children's Hospital. You're going to speak a little bit better than I am about that. So why don't you give us a little quick rundown of your time as a paramedic?
Sure. So I obviously started a long time ago. And
sorry, Rob.
No, it's all right.
Rob's like, I don't know if I like this girl.
No. But love, you speak the truth. It's good.
You're wise. You're wise.
So it's seasoned, right? Seasoned.
Yeah, seasoned. I like that. Seasoned. Yeah.
So well seasoned that I am. I started with our local fire department. And this was something that I had my father's cousin was an Army medic, and he talked in high school to our high school program, talking to our ROTC program, saying about what all they do. And I thought, boy, that's really awesome. We can be out helping folks and making a difference. And when I was in Army basic training, I thought, this is really what I want to do. That kind of clicked and said, I changed all my career plans. This is what I want to do for a living. But I've been very fortunate. I've not only volunteered with the fire company, I've worked for the local ambulance service, for Butler Ambulance Service. I've worked for the county a couple different times, but I currently keep my paramedic at Slippery Rock. So just like Allie, I work up there. I try and do a shift a week up in Slippery Rock, and it's a wonderful opportunity to help people, to do something different and make a difference in the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything that you do. So, like I said, when we first all sat down and started talking, I think what you all do it's such a brave thing, because you're going into a lot of situations you have no idea, or you're probably getting information as you're on your way there, correct? I know there's a lot of that communication. And from having had to call 911 in the past, they keep you on the phone, and they want to keep you on the phone to keep you informed, and also so they can continue to communicate, right, with first responders. So thank you for that, and continuing to do what you do.
Well, we've been very blessed. We've had the opportunity to not only travel the country, but literally travel the world and talk about what we've learned and what we're doing.
Yeah, that's
It's been a
great.
blessing.
And then we have, Patrick Kresh, how recently did you graduate from the program?
So I graduated the program back in August through the first academy, the Alpha class.
Okay.
So I've been an EMT for roughly 3 months at this point.
Okay.
In that short amount of time, I have experienced motor vehicle accidents, cardiac arrests, infant calls, which is the most horrifying call you ever want to get.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, what I want to ask you, since you're, I'd say, the youngest of everyone that's sitting here as far as like experience goes, right? And we're going to talk to everyone about this, but I'm going to start with you. So you're the lucky recruit, or I don't know.
Victim number one.
Victim number
number
one.
one.
Okay, sure. Let's say victim number one. To talk a little bit about your why, getting into a field like such as being an EMT. It's a really bold endeavor, right? We need people like you in this world. And I just want to thank you, because I know a lot of people that have been in motor vehicle accidents, and I myself have been in, and it always feels refreshing when there's people there to take care of you, and you guys are so calm and collected, and you know exactly what you're doing, and you're on top of things before I'm even thinking like, oh wait, they're towing my car's totaled, they're towing it, all my stuff's in there, where am I, wait, what's going on? So anyways, I could go on and on. I want to hear your why. Like, what was it that got you not only just to get into the program, but to decide to start this career? Because I can see you continuing to go onward and upward.
That's actually the plan.
Yeah.
In about a year's time to either go get my AMT or paramedic. But the main reason for getting into this is more than likely because of my little brother. He was born with a hole in his heart and Down syndrome, and in his rather short life, sad as that is,
I'm sorry,
had multiple experiences with the ambulance, and that's always been something that fascinated me because of that, was his experiences with it. So that stuck with me. And the academy came around, it was the perfect opportunity to finally take the plunge into it and do the job that I actually always wanted to do.
Yeah. A lot of people I talk to who do get into the medical field oftentimes have a similar story to yours. And it's almost as if maybe it's a little healing for you, perhaps, with having to go through not only, experiencing that as a child, but I'm sorry you lost your brother. It sounds like your brother has passed. And
Yeah.
I am sorry for that, because I know losing a family member like that can be really tough. So do you think it's something that you do just to sort of, I don't know, heal that part of you maybe, or no?
No.
Am I taking it too far? Taking it too serious?
So,
and it's okay. You don't have to, I think we all deal with things differently. So
I honestly don't think that's why I do it. It's much more of, it's probably one of the reasons that I got into it to begin with.
mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's for me.
Yeah.
I think it's for me to give back at this point.
Yeah. It is such a good thing though to do that, right? Whenever you help someone, and I don't know, it does. It's like a different type of endorphin, almost like, I don't know if they've looked into that at all, and I haven't read any research on that, but there is something to helping people whenever they can't help themselves, right? And there's that really good feeling that you get. So yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing about your brother. All right. We're going to move on to Rob.
Victim number 2.
Victim number 2, Rob. Yeah, I mean, you're why. So, and you have a career that I can very much see Patrick going into, you know?
Absolutely. We would love to see Patrick take that step.
Yeah. So for you, like starting out, if you could go back to like when you first started out, yeah, what was your why?
So one of the things that I use at the end of the classes that we teach and the end of the programs, there's a quote that's often attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson, but it's in reality it was for a contest and it was written by a woman named Bessie Stanley. But they had asked, what's your definition of success? And she talks about how success could be a redeemed social condition, leaving a garden, just anywhere leaving the world a better place. But then she specifically says, because one life has breathed easier because you've lived. That's success. And what I tell our groups is that I always default back to that. There's days that it's really rough. There's days that it's just tough out there. And if we can make one life breathe easier, and we are in such a blessed profession, we physically, and whether it's EMS or whether it's nursing or physicians, we physically make people breathe easier. We put oxygen on patients. We position their airways. We take care of all that. But a lot of times it's just holding somebody's hand. It's to your point, when you know that there's somebody there that's got this under control. Mm-hmm. And many times it's not actually placing somebody in oxygen. It's just, we're here. We've got this. We'll take care of this. And you don't have to worry about anything else. We're here. And I just, that's what I default back to.
Yeah.
That we are in a blessed profession where we get to make a difference, where we get to help people at their worst points. And that's just an awesome gift from God that we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially working at the 911 call center, you're also probably overseeing a lot of people who are taking calls. Do you tend to have to do that at certain points in your day there, I guess?
No,
or
you don't want me answering calls. Those folks are experts.
Okay.
I jokingly say that because I've done that in the past twice.
Yeah.
But the technology that's there today is so much different than whenever I worked there full-time as a dispatcher. Those folks are amazing. And the one thing that's different for them, we all get to call as EMS, and we get a little bit of a mental break while we're kind of thinking about it. So they call us and they say, to your point earlier, Patrick had said about there's a 2-month-old or a child, right? So we get called for someone not breathing, a baby not breathing, or a baby in a seizure or something like this. We kind of mentally process that on the way to the call. Our 911 dispatchers, they don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting there, the phone rings. It may be somebody who's just calling in a complaint about their neighbor. They hang up that phone. The next call they take is somebody screaming, my baby's not breathing, help me. And they're truly the first responders. They're the ones talking them through. And to your point earlier, not only are they obtaining information, they're giving medical advice. And they're teaching these folks what to do, lay people, until we can arrive as EMS. So that's an awesome profession, but it's completely different because unless we come upon a crash,
mm-hmm.
we at least have a couple minutes to think about what we're getting into.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective. I mean, yeah, I totally commend 911 operators because I listen to crime podcasts, so, I get to hear all the things. And until you walk a mile in someone else's shoes, you have no idea what it might be like having to take calls like that what's a typical shift and how often or what are you allowed to share when it comes to that? I imagine that someone's like working for so long and then probably has like a break and there's a coordinator on the floor that's overseeing if anybody needs assistance. But, if you want to feel comfortable talking about any of that.
Sure. So our folks, as a general statement, the majority of them work 12-hour shifts. That's their choice. It works out better for them in their personal lives. So there are 4 folks that work 8-hour shifts. And I'm talking our full-time staff. So 4 of them work 8-hour shifts. The rest of them work a 12-hour shift. They work 3 12-hour shifts one week. The next week they work 3 12-hour shifts and an 8-hour shift. So that's their general schedule to answer that question. We do have a supervisor on each shift. Our concerns about our folks and I'm going to speak not for Butler County, but in general, mm-hmm. that 911 is a very stressful position. So we do have a lot of concerns, again, not Butler County, but throughout, internationally really, that our folks experience a stress that nobody else experiences. So their mental health is really important to us, as it is for all EMS and all public safety responders. We know that the suicide rates are higher among first responders, and certainly, as I mentioned, the 911 dispatchers are the first responders. I am impressed when I listen to them handle calls, and literally we do it every day, right? And these calls, 100,000 calls a year, and you listen to them and how professionally they handle it and how they make somebody breathe easier just because they're saying, okay, listen, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, they really do. I mean, it's truly it's almost like having an angel on the other side of the phone, right? Who is going to know exactly what to do in what order. And you don't even have to, like you said, you guys have a little bit of time to process sort of what you're stepping into, perhaps because they're communicating whatever they can communicate with you. But for them, yeah, they're dealing with it in real time. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, Miss Allie, let's talk about your why. You told me a little bit, but
now my why doesn't sound so good after these two. I should have went first. So definitely my mom's always been a really big influence. She's a respiratory therapist, and she's the type of person who picks up animals on the side of the road if they're hurt, brings them home. That's just something I want to emulate. It sounds cheesy. I like to help people.
That's not cheesy.
It is. I feel like that's what everyone says, but
Not cheesy at all.
It's not cheesy because there are quite a few people out there who don't go into this field because they don't either want to get involved or they don't know what to do. It's that, the fight or flight response, right? The lid flip where whenever something happens in a traumatic experience, some people, they freeze, but then there's other people that immediately jump into action right away.
I do feel like some of the reason that people, kind of get really into fire EMS is it's a little bit of an adrenaline rush almost.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
Because, if you're woken up sometimes in the middle of the night and then
that's it.
You have a motor vehicle accident at this address and it's 15 minutes away. You don't know what the roads are like, so it's okay, what's going on?
Yeah. Wow.
And every day is a little bit different, and you genuinely don't know what's going to happen until you get there. And I think that's kind of, I don't want to say fun, but it keeps things interesting. You're definitely not going to get bored.
Of course. So for anyone out there who's looking for a little bit of, pep in their step, because if you think about it, it does do that, right? I mean, you run to this, emergency situation to help someone, and there's different outcomes in all of these situations, and I'm sure you've all faced all of those. So when we're talking about that, how much, whenever you're doing training in that, so you have 8 weeks, you have all this training, all these things that you're learning, but whenever we're talking about all of the verbally communicating with people in person, on the phone, lifting, carrying, balancing things, all of the requirements, right? The things that you've got to be able to do. But we're talking about skills. So establishing and maintaining an airway, ventilating patients manually, cardiac resuscitation, use of automated external defibrillators and mechanical CPR devices. You're also you brought a kit here that's for...
that's
it's the blood pathogen kit, right?
Or that's our
bleeding
training.
control.
Yeah, that's our training bleeding control legs.
Okay. Oh, they're just legs.
They're just a thigh.
Oh, just the thigh. Okay, cool. So you're learning all of these things, managing patients, including assisting in childbirth. Has anybody here? I bet you've encountered childbirth, right?
Yes.
Wow. How was that?
So we're well prepared for it
Yeah.
by the time it happens. There's folks that I can tell you, Allie, that's one of her favorite things in the world.
I have a partner that I work with at Slippery Rock, and that's his least favorite call. So every time we work together, I go, I think today we're going to deliver a baby.
Just to kind of get him revved up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
But I mean, the first time that happened, that had to be unreal, right? That had to be kind of it's something that happens all the time. I mean, but if you think about it, I would imagine the first time experiencing something like that would have to be whoa, that just happened.
It is. No doubt. Again, no doubt.
I don't know. The first baby I had on the ambulance, the woman's aunt was in the ambulance with her, and she started crying. And then there was a brief moment where I was like, oh, I might start crying, but I didn't because I was wearing a lot of makeup that day. So that's what stopped me from
You're
crying.
trying to help and
Yes.
doing that, looking up so the tears don't mess up your mascara. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, obviously we've already hit the pinpoints. Anybody who would be in that situation would be excited and freaking out. But
Well, I don't know that the word freaking out. I think it's
I mean,
excited.
like a good,
In a
yes.
good way,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
sure. So you're so well prepared that there's a lot of the things that we're doing, we are trying to take a chaotic situation and put it under control. So a lot of that's our focus. So we're very determined on this is what we need to do. A lot of the times, the things that hit you after the call's over. So you're really doing what you need to do. You take care of everything. And then to Allie's point, and I would say part of Allie's why is her compassion. She's so compassionate with folks, and you can see that. It doesn't matter if she's dealing with a 80-some-year-old with chest pain or a newborn baby. She's very compassionate, and that's what we look for, right? But a lot of times you're just trying to take control of that situation. You don't really have a whole lot of time to think about it. At that point, the baby's out, you're dry, warm, stimulating the baby, you're getting, and everything's going the way it is, the way it's supposed to. And to your point, people do it every day. It's been going on a long time. And you're thinking about your response and where you're going and what you're doing next, and you're keeping the baby warm, and you're safely transporting mom and baby. And then you're like, oh, this is a beautiful baby. It's a brand new life. We started off with one patient. Now we have two. That's just a fantastic. And when you give that radio report saying we're now inbound with two, it's great.
Sorry. I don't know. I've always wanted to witness something like that. I think it'd be a really exciting, exhilarating. I often wonder, so as you're teaching, right? Experience is the best way to learn, right? And obviously in the field that you're in. But how during the academy are you finding moments, or do you have specific times where you talk about situations like that, or get everybody in the mindset, like obviously your adrenaline's going to be running when you experience something for the first time, like a cardiac arrest for the first time, or getting a call about a newborn child, or about someone giving childbirth, or a car accident, or how do you sort of teach, or where in the academy are you saying, okay, this is where we need to make sure that it's almost like tunnel vision, right? I mean, how do you teach something that really experiences what they're going to get? And they're obviously doing the hours on the weekends, right? Starting on that second week. So that's where they're going to start to get a little bit of that experience. But how do you teach something like that?
Something we learned from the aviation industry is that simulation works, right? So when you look at how successful the aviation industry was after they put in simulators, and after they taught folks how to fly on a simulator, where if they made a mistake, it didn't matter. And then you convert that into medicine, and I won't even just say EMS, but medicine in general, that simulator kit that you mentioned a few minutes ago. So here's a simulator that, hey, when you see this situation, this is what you're going to do. And in those core situations, we talk about, instead of training somebody so that they can get it right, we train them so much that they can't get it wrong. That's our purpose.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They are so comfortable by the time they get in there. And to your point, you're right. The best thing is on-the-job training, right, and putting your stuff in action. But the simulators make a huge difference, whether you're ventilating somebody, whether you're doing bleeding control, whether you're doing CPR. And it's a simple, we've been using simulations with Annie mannequins for years, right? Annie, are you okay?
Yes.
For folks that remember CPR from years ago. So those...
Call 911, get the AED. Yeah,
exactly. It's a root memory coming back to you now. Right?
I've had to do that. It's good for people to understand like all the different nuances to this academy and what you do, and how you're doing as much as you can to give like real life experience. So I want to ask Patrick then. So from the day you started, right, to the day you finished, like, what was the, when you first start something and you're like super eager and excited, and then it's hard, right? Because you have to just constantly be learning. You're just like putting all this information in your brain. How did you feel when you left? Were you like, okay, I'm so glad I did this? Or just talk about how you felt from the beginning to the end.
So are you talking about the academy as a whole, or more recently being the EMT?
I think it's as a whole, like from the beginning of the academy to the end, and then now being an EMT, like how you've seen yourself evolve, and how the academy like brought you to that, right?
Yeah. So the first time we were going out for our ride-alongs, everybody was anxious because it was, I don't want to be in the way. How do I help? What's the best way for me to be able to do this? And luckily for me, I had the right amount of calls at the right amount of time, where it was each week, as I learned something a little bit more, I was able to help a little bit more, and the call got a little bit more serious, and it involved being able to get involved. Some of the students had the first week not so much of that experience. It was, you're immediately in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm.
Ian is a perfect example of that with Butler, but on the now side of things, it's kind of surreal still with some of the calls because you get out, police is on scene for a fight, somebody's high on as a kite, they're beating up somebody else. Do you have one patient, two patients? Do I need to call another ambulance? Is the police going to arrest somebody?
Mm-hmm.
In like Rob was saying, it is very much a surreal experience after the fact because it's, that just happened.
Yep.
Because a perfect example was I was at Carn City and I rode up to a scene with two other people, one of them an EMT and one of them a paramedic, and the police were still on scene and they were going, we don't know what's going on yet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But we got cleared in because there was a potential cardiac issue.
Okay.
So
yeah.
It was a surreal experience at the time, but I understand now, hey, this is what I need to do next time so it's a more efficient process.
So whenever you're coming off of like a weekend like that, for instance, on Monday when you come in, do you guys have like sort of debriefing moments where they're like discussing like, hey, this is kind of what happened. This is what I learned from that. Because I can imagine that. I mean, my only experience to say like being in a busy environment is working in a restaurant, right? Which doesn't even compare to what you're doing, right? Yeah. But feeling like I don't want to be in the way. So I can't imagine what it would feel like to be in an ambulance going out on a call. And so how is that something that you guys sort of try to touch on too and say, oh, what did you learn from that? And then give your real life experience maybe and say, well, here are other options, right? In that situation, which most of the things you're doing, there's not a lot of options, right? It's like you're doing this or you're doing that, right? It's probably very like, I don't know, analytical is the right word to use, but it's very much like this is what you're going to do in that situation. But I don't know if anything I'm saying is making any sense, but is that something that you guys do incorporate?
Yeah, so on Monday mornings after the ride-alongs, we'd have a little Monday morning catch-up, and everyone would talk about their ride-alongs, what they learned, what they think what could have went better. Sometimes we get feedback from the ambulance services. Like if they were like, hey, so-and-so did this really well, we got a lot of very positive feedback, which was super nice.
Yeah, yeah. And that's helpful, right? I'm sure that that's something that's like...
It really is, especially if you're still a student in the class, and it's Brooklyn, for a perfect example, was actually she was at Carn City with one of the former instructors who works there still, but she had a pretty traumatic call and came in on Monday, and she's like, I don't want to talk about it, and she talked about it on the side just to get it off her chest. It's a really important thing to be able to have, even as the student, is that support group.
Again, as I was like looking at everything that you gave me, I don't think people understand all of the different layers to this, right? And how you are literally going into a situation with like a certain amount of information, but then when you walk into something like people's energy too, right? You walk in, you don't know who else is going to show up. I mean, let's be honest, whenever we see a car accident, right, I actually get bothered when people like, yeah, we're going past because we want to go slow. But the people that are like blatantly stopping to stare, I'm like, be a little bit respectful of the fact that there could be, someone could have just lost their life and you're looking to see it. Like, I don't know why that's a personal thing, okay? I know it's human nature for us to want to look to see because at the end of the day, we all have to face our own mortality at some point, right? And I think that that's another side to this too, is what is it that we get into when we're talking about how you guys take care of yourselves?
I think that I've worked at some really great places that like I've had really great support groups. I have a lot of friends that are in the same position or role as me, so they're great people to talk to because they get it.
Yeah.
So I think that's my biggest, like, just kind of sitting down and talking about it. That's what works best for me.
I'm pretty fortunate to be in the same boat as Allie. Luckily, my eldest brother is the assistant chief in Grove City, so he's been around a lot of it. He understands, but he also is a very jaded individual because he did not have that support group.
Okay.
As a lot of people do.
I think a lot of things have evolved, like, especially in the last, like, I don't know, how much do you think it's evolved in the last, like, let's say 5 years or even 10 years?
No, I think things have definitely changed. I think some stigmas about just talking about needing help has changed. So I think that's made a positive impact. I think just some younger people getting involved and
Mm-hmm.
changing things up so you don't have the older jaded individuals.
And
Sometimes, and not everyone is just,
it's not supposed to be a jab at him either. It's just he didn't have that ability to, but he is a lot better with it now. He and I actually converse a lot about it. He'll get a bad fire call, or I'll come off of a bad ambulance call, and hey, this just happened, and we text or call or whatever.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we've gotten much better at is recognizing that there's an issue, recognizing that these folks are holding and seeing things that most humans don't see and shouldn't have to see. So to your earlier point about when do we talk about this, a lot of times we talk about it right after the call. We debrief with each other, and then we also debrief with the coming shift with the new and say, hey, this is what we had. And if you're the crew coming on, not only are you supportive of them, but you're also thinking, well, how would I handle that? What would I have done with this? And if I was placed in that same situation, and folks are better at calling each other and saying, hey, you just had a really bad bus crash, and are you doing okay? And it's okay if you are. That's fine. It's great that you are, but we just want to make sure. We're just checking on you. So we have the kind of one of our next level of support is what we call a critical incident stress management team.
Okay.
So there's a whole international approach to this. Dr. Mitchell had written up some programs for first responders and said, listen, we react differently, and first responders are not very apt to go get counseling. Nothing wrong with going to a counselor. I use the analogy all the time. If there's something wrong with your vehicle, taking it to a professional who works on them all the time doesn't mean that mechanic's smarter than you, better than you, anything else, but that's what they do. They're experts. They fix vehicles every day. They research the newest techniques. They know everything about it. And counselors are the same way. So we've tried to take that stigma away and say, hey, go get counseling. But if they're not willing to do that, or even the step before that, is this critical incident stress management team, which is really just peer debriefers. So it's folks that can say, I've been there too. And it's a step-through process where you talk about the event and you come to some closure. And probably the most important thing out of that is not only the talking, but it also gives coping skills. So at the end of it, you say, hey, this is normal for me to have this reaction. I'm not abnormal. I saw something that should impact me or could impact a lot of folks. And a lot of times it's just at the garbage can. There's so much stuff in it. It just needs emptied out. Here's some tools to help empty it out.
Yeah.
So we've really taken a lot, even I would say in the past 20 years, 20, 30 years of realizing, hey, this is an issue. We need to take care of our folks because they are the number one resource.
And that's why it's so great that you're a part of this academy, is recognizing that and letting people know that. Sometimes you need to let people know, like, hey, it's okay. If you have a certain reaction to something, you're aware of it, and then let's figure out how we can work through that, right? Because it's true. I mean, we all do things very differently, but talking about the stigma behind it too. I mean, a conversation we had, if you're comfortable talking about, is when you're coming upon a situation, let's say an overdose perhaps, or someone who has been using, and how hard that could be, right? To see something like that and how you have to approach it with compassion, right? Because,
absolutely.
In those situations, you could very easily be triggered by a situation, right? Based off of like a prior experience in your life or a feeling that you're having for something that's has nothing to do with this situation, right? So you guys really have to compartmentalize almost like what is going on in your life, what has happened in the past, and if something's going to trigger you, and just set it aside to help this person that's in front of you,
Right.
knowing nothing about their story. So how often do you maybe have conversations about that? Because I know that's, verbally communicating, in person, telephone, other electronic devices. So like this is a conversation you have during this academy, right? With your students, is how you're approaching people, how you're treating them, right? And going into it like with compassion, right? So
Right.
and obviously I think that's why you're the perfect person to be in this role, because this is a newer program here, right?
Yeah.
So
Less than a year old.
yeah, so for you coming into this, it's, you've got classrooms, it's grant funded by the county of Butler, which is great and free to participate. But the fact that like students are getting all of this There's just so many amazing resources in this county since I've moved back only been back for a couple years. And I've learned about all these places where it's like, oh my gosh, you could basically get like a degree or a certification and get paid to do it and have this really amazing like skill that's gonna like, it's like a catapult into other things, right? It's like
Absolutely.
definitely gonna be a paramedic. It's absolutely happening. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm the type of person like, that's happening. I see that happening. And then who knows, right?
Right.
So whenever you're having to have those conversations, which have to be hard, right?
Yeah.
You might have to approach someone and say, hey, let's talk about this and this interaction. Like, how do you, I can imagine how you do it because you're very soft spoken and you're very kind and smart. So I'm sure you just like know exactly what to say. But
I think that I think learning to talk to different people is kind of an acquired skill, if you will, because on the ambulance you're encountering people who might be 100, they might be a newborn, and everything in between, a lot of different backgrounds. So I don't know. I think that my motto is just be nice to everybody. No one wants to call 911. No one wants to see you. They're not doing it to inconvenience you. And I think it's gotten me this far. I think it's a good motto. It's my motto every day.
it is a good point. Like, not that we don't like you guys and what you do for us, but yeah, I don't want to have to call 911 for sure. Nobody wants that. How have you seen that sort of evolve, that compassion, and especially in Butler with your time in Butler with, let's be honest, I've been having conversations since December of last year about overdoses and addiction in Butler County, and I've heard a lot of stories. So I don't know if you can speak to that at all.
Sure. One of the things that sticks out to me is I had a gentleman who had overdosed who was actually in cardiac arrest, and his heart had stopped, and he was fortunate to have a nurse there who had started resuscitation on him right away. We'd got a heart rate back. We gave him some Narcan, and he woke up, and which is not something that happens not once you're in cardiac arrest. It doesn't happen often. So he was awake. He was talking to us and doing well. And at one point, he looked at me and he said, "Why are you being nice to me?" And that just broke my heart.
Wow.
Because I can tell you that from an EMS perspective, from a public safety perspective, fire, police, EMS, sometimes we see these folks repeatedly. And sometimes we see the impact it's having on their family. We see what resources they're using. And it's difficult for us sometimes to look back and kind of pull back and say, what are these folks going through? What's happening in their life? How did they get to this? They're good people. This isn't somebody who nobody intended to set out their life and say, hey, this is my goal. This is where I'm going to be. They're in a situation, and we have the awesome ability to be able to help them through that situation. And, I think there's times that all of us, not just in public safety, but all of us could be a little more compassionate with our neighbors, right? And say, we don't know what they're going through. And, God's placed us here for a reason, right? So I think that's something that we've gotten better at. Governor Christie, the prior governor of New Jersey, has a great video out if anybody wants to take a look at it. It's talking about how his friend, one of his attorney friends that he'd gone to college with, that they had stayed close with. This guy was one of the most successful folks in law school with him, and how he got addicted through pain medication and what his spiral was. And I don't want to ruin that story, other than I would recommend that if folks think, boy, this could never happen to me, it's a great thing for folks to listen to. And when we talk about compassion burnout to folks, we show that video a lot and say, listen, folks didn't wake up and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to the guidance counselor. I'm thinking about, I want to be an overdose. That's what I want to do. And so how you got there.
Yeah, from the beginning, that's always been what I've learned from this. Sitting down with Dr. Brophy and Joe Mahoney from the Geyser Center, I've sat down with so many people who have actually been in that situation. I've sat down with people who worked in the medical field who struggled because of things that were going on in their life and at first could manage it, which is often what happens, right? They're able to manage it. It's fine. Nobody knows until it's not fine, because as we all know, when you are using, illegal substances, when you go from opioid use disorder into whether it's, now there's xylazine, right? So Narcan doesn't even work on xylazine, right?
Nope.
And so it's like, so what do you do? And in those situations, you're going off of the knowledge that you have, the experience that you have, into a situation with what you've been told by whoever called 911 and this person in front of you, and all you're doing is trying to save their life. And a lot of people should know this, but I don't think enough people know that if you give someone one hit of Narcan, that might not be it, right? That might not be enough. And when you do the second one, you would want to do the other nostril, correct? Are you supposed to switch nostrils? Does that matter? I know this is like a random thing that I'm asking you, but you guys...
No, as long as we're getting the Narcan in,
okay,
that's our bigger concern.
Don't worry about,
But you bring up a great point that Narcan has a relatively short half-life. So it does some crazy cool things and stops the narcotic from inhibiting things, but it'll wear off sometimes before the narcotic does. So oftentimes we treat somebody, they say, I don't want to go to the hospital, and we're really going to encourage them to go to the hospital because you can have that happen again. The Narcan wears off and the person stops breathing again. So to your point, we definitely, we want those folks to be treated a little bit longer term. And then they also have the opportunity to get some additional help, to get some additional resources, even if they don't choose it that day to take them. But we want to make sure they have those resources available.
Yeah, which I think is so wonderful that you're doing that, because it comes right down to the caring, right, and being compassionate.
And I think to your point about the things that have changed is it's difficult when you see those patients over and over again and you don't see the end result of them doing good things and positive things happening and where they're at in a couple years. And when you get to go to some place like the Center on Center, right,
Yep.
and you see folks who have recovered and are making such a huge difference and doing such great things, that's stuff that we don't get to see all the time, that we as responders don't get to see. And it's important that we do and we understand that what you're doing makes a difference.
I think that's like one of the worst parts about the ambulance is you don't always get a follow-up on everybody, and sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I wonder what happened to that person, and you don't always get that.
Yeah, it's almost as if it's something to put like on the docket, right, to somehow create something where there can be that, because you will every once in a while hear of a story, right, of EMT is reunited with young boy that they saved from whatever situation, and those that's when I'm crying, right? I'm like late night, like, why am I doom scrolling? And then I start seeing all this. It's either animal rescue stories or it's like stories of what you all do. So it's, you take in 8 weeks, right? You take in 8 weeks, you give all of these skills. I mean, I have a list of all the things, and I'm sure we could continue to go on and on and on, because it's not something that written tests, right? They've got to do written. Is there like a verbal sort of?
There's practical.
There's practical.
It's like
okay.
like a hands-on skills test.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot that you're doing here at this program. How long did it take for them to sort of develop this before it kind of came to fruition? Do we know the answer to that question?
Sure. So from a county perspective, I got to tell you, this is something that we in Butler County are so blessed with. We have commissioners who recognize, and you had mentioned the Commissioner Boozle earlier, having worked out there. Our other two commissioners, both just so generous with their time, energy, and trying to do the right things. And all three of them just trying to do the right thing for the county. And we're very blessed by that. In addition to them, we had some other really great partners. So when we started talking about this and the need was recognized and said, look, from a 911 perspective, if you can only imagine what it's like when you have somebody who's called for help and you don't have a resource readily available for that because there's just not enough EMTs, right? They would staff more ambulances. There's multiple ambulances there. There's just nobody to staff them. So from us, that breaks our heart. We see that. Butler County is not alone in that. That's not just a Butler County problem. It's not just a state problem. That's a national emergency, a national crisis for EMS. But everybody recognized that and said, hey, what do you need? So we had a sit down with our local ambulance services, with all the services in the county, and said, hey, what can we do to help? And there was a couple of things that came out of that. One was help with immediate EMT staffing. Another one was help with paramedic staffing. And the commissioners took both of that back and said, hey, we really, this seems like this is a great idea. This is what we can do. And we had a fantastic partnership with Butler Community College, which, I think folks don't realize what an asset we have here at the college. And so the commissioners reached out. We met with the college. We met with the EMS folks. And just to tag onto that, Butler Hospital came in and said, hey, what can we do to help? Their emergency department said, we'll let folks come in here in due time. We'll help if somebody can't make it through. What can we do to help? So just as partners, and then the partnership with all the ambulance services. So even then, when you have such a great group of people, it still takes some process, still takes some time. So we had gone in 2022. We had by 2023, we had certainly had a template for the program. We had agreements. The commissioners had funded that, and it funded to the point of at least 3 years, multiple academies each year. And then with the college's help, we were able to launch the Alpha program this year that Patrick was in. So no matter what, it's going to take a little bit of time. And this isn't an easy program. It's not something that you can look at the neighboring counties and say, what are they doing? Because this is new.
Yeah.
Folks aren't doing it. There's some other places across the country. I don't know of many other counties that have invested this kind of money and resources into the EMS crisis, although many should.
Yes.
So I think this program is going to be looked at by a lot of our neighboring counties. I know it already is, and certainly throughout the Commonwealth, if not the nation, what happens here. The only thing that I would throw out, in addition to, everybody knows this academy is a great idea. It makes it an easy sell, right? Whenever you're saying, hey, you can go to school for free. You're going to get all your books paid for, all your tuitions paid for. You're going to have a position waiting for you when you come out, right? So there's ambulance services already looking to hire you before you're out of they're coming to meet you during the program. You're going to have a job. You're going to have everything you need to work on there, including your emergency drivers, emergency vehicle operators class, emergency vehicle driver training now is what it's called. And you're going to have every certification you need to walk out and start treating patients on that ambulance. But in addition to that, the one thing that I would love that everybody out there understands is that because of this partnership between the county, between the ambulance services, between Butler Community College and Butler Hospital, there are literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours that there are now EMTs that covering this county that weren't there before. Because the commitment for the program, all of that you get, all you have to do is 2,000 hours, a full-time year, 2,080 hours back to the county. So somewhere in this county, you need to work for an ambulance service. And just from the folks that have graduated from the first couple classes, the first program, we already had 10,000 hours committed back to the county. And that's impressive. That's a huge commitment. That's, yes, it's a year, but these folks, as Patrick mentioned, they're going to go on and do other things. This is not just a end at EMT. There's an empowerment portion of this EMT class that's not in any other class. That empowerment program's proven through BC3 to make a difference in folks' lives and to empower them to move on to other things. And this is going to continue a career path for these folks. And that's really what I want folks to understand. This is a big benefit for the county, not just the folks who take the program.
Ion Sports Podcast is proudly participating in Movember's annual fundraising campaign, which encourages people to sign up at Movember.com, grow a mustache, move to commit to walking or running 60 miles, host a virtual event, or mow your own way.
Mow Your Own Way is a choose-your-own-adventure activity and allows people to pick how they want to support Movember. The new challenge could include riding your motorcycle across the country or doing 100 burpees and allows supporters to participate and not be limited by what they want to do.
All the support will change the face of men's health, raising funds and awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer.
The Ion Sports Podcast team, along with Butler Eagles sports writers, have a goal to raise $1,000 for the month of November. The charity raises funds to deliver innovative breakthrough research and support programs that enable men to live happier, healthier, and longer lives. Committed to disrupting the status quo, millions have joined the movement, helping to fund over 1,250 projects around the world.
In addition to tackling key health issues faced by men, Movember is working to encourage men to stay healthy in all areas of their life, with a focus on men staying socially connected and becoming more open to discussing their health in significant moments in their lives.
The charity's vision is to have everlasting impact on the face of men's health. To donate or learn more, please visit Movember.com. Movember is a registered 501c3 charity. To donate to our fundraising goal, click the link in our story or bio. Help us at Alter Eagles Eye on Sports reach our goal of $1,000 towards Movember for men's health.
On behalf of myself, Eagle sports writer and host Derek Pito.
I am Eagle sports writer Brendan Howe.
And I'm Eagles sports editor Jake Murda Adams.
Thank you.
Beth, you just, do we say graduated?
I say graduated.
Yes.
I think it should be celebrated. It's a graduation.
Did they get a cake?
You know what? My mom made cotton candy.
Good
Yeah.
enough.
Oh,
Yes.
cotton candy.
Yes, my mom is a sweetheart and she made
Wow.
cotton candy.
Okay. I like that, Mom. I love cotton candy. I'm a little bit of a sweet tooth. My mom used to call me a bloodhound when I was a kid because I'd find the Easter candy every year. Anyways, she'd hide it in a different spot. It's fine. So Beth Helzer is joining us, and you just graduated from the program here at BC3
1 week before Thanksgiving.
1 week before Thanksgiving. Okay, so how's it going? How do you feel?
Good. Been a nurse's aide for like 16 years, so
Okay.
this was my next step up, my bridge between this and nursing.
So, and this is going to be a really great experience for you. Do you know, like, for the future, right? So the future goal is to go into nursing full time after you are an EMS. Are we saying EMS or am I saying EMT? Why do I keep changing my mind?
Well, it should be an EMT.
EMT,
She'd be working
EMT.
in EMS as an EMT. It's confusing.
Wait, say that again.
So she'd be working in EMS as
An EMT. Okay. Emergency medical services as an emergency medical technician. Ha! Boom. All right. I wish I had the thing over there to hit the soundboard. Okay. I get excited when I learn things and I'm like, yes, I know what that means. Because I was a little confused and we did talk about the whole difference between an EMT and a paramedic. So that's a whole different, but we're not going to dig into that right now. So for you, this is probably really exciting to be a part of this academy, to be able to get those skills. And I'd imagine that would be a really great skill to have down the road when you do finish like your nursing degree and all of that, which they actually have that here at BC3 too, don't they?
They do.
Amazing. All right. So you could work in, an emergency room department, and this would be such a great skill to have. And I shouldn't even say skill. That's like downplaying what you guys do. What you do, it's like superpower, right? I feel like you should have like, you know what you should do? You should have the, oh, come on, Laura. Get it together. I feel like you should have like Wonder Woman or Superman capes like going off the back of like the ambulance. Like, do you know what I mean? Like when you're next parade you're in, I feel like you need to like somehow
Upgrade a little bit.
upgrade it for the parade. When you
I
know,
like
when they
that.
come through, I feel like you need to have like almost like the Beyonce hair blowing, like a fan with like a cape flying off the back. Okay, anyways, if you need help, let me know. I'm a crafty person. So First phone call, you're like, so we're in this parade. I'm like, I got it. I know what you're looking for already. How do you feel from the beginning to the end of the program? I asked this question before. You know, when you first started, I'm sure it was a little like, okay.
It was a little overwhelming at first, but mostly because I was one of the older ones in the group, and I've been out of school for, God help me, 20-some years raising kids. So coming back in and trying to redo the processes of, okay, I got to study, I have to do this, I have to do that, but I'm still a mom, and I still have to do this, and I still have to do that. Was a little bit tricky at first, but
Yeah.
by the end of the class, I got it down. We're good.
Yeah. Well, no, I really commend you for going back to school because I think that's such a good message for anybody who thinks that maybe it's too late, right? Or there's a lot of people that get into the mindset like, oh, I'm too old, or I have too many. You have a lot of responsibilities. I honestly don't know how parents do it. I really don't. I mean, I have a dog and a cat. I'm single.
And that's a lot.
And some days I'm like, last night I was like doing the dishes and doing all the things, right? And I was like, oh man. And then I had a moment where I was like, it's midnight. What if I had kids? If I had kids,
I'd still be doing the laundry at
I'd
midnight.
still be doing the laundry, you know? I'd still be doing things. So I really want to like commend you for that and say congratulations to you. Like that's a huge accomplishment. And it's never easy, right? It's not linear. It's not like I'm going to go to school and I go to class every day and I'll learn these things and then I'm going to go. And you're like, no. Because, I mean, kids, they wake you up in the middle of the night, right? They don't feel good. Or
I tried going back to school when the kids were younger, and it wasn't feasible at that time. It was the kids got sick, the dad had to go to work. I ended up having to be the one staying with the kids. So I missed too much of schooling, so I had to quit and put it on the back burner until later. And now my kids are about to make me a grandma. So I was like, at this point, I can go back.
But grandma duties are great. That's exciting, right? Because you can like hold the babies and you can be like, okay,
I get
here
to do
you
what
go.
my aunt did to me and spoil me and then send them back to mom.
Absolutely. I love being an aunt because I get them all I'm like, wait, what was that toy that they wanted that was like really loud and you don't really want to, I'm going to get that for them.
Yep.
And I'm going to bring it over and play with them for like an hour and then I'm going to be like, gotta go. See ya. Like, yeah.
Buy all the fun stuff and not have any of the problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all have our, our seasons in life, right? And that's the season you're in right now. So I'm really happy for you and that you were able to take the time to, do this. And now you're in it. So you're in the beginning. Where are you right now working wise? Do you mind sharing like what part of the county you're in? Are you in Butler still?
I'm not yet. I have to do my written test on Wednesday, actually.
Okay.
So, and then once I get done with that, I'm leaning more towards Slippery Rock.
Okay.
They were telling me they had Nico was actually telling me about a program that they have worked out with Allegheny Health Network that will pay for me to go to school to be a nurse.
Oh.
So I'm going to see
so
about
you try to go up there and work while you're going. Okay.
Yep, do
That's
that,
exciting.
do my nursing, and then eventually the hope is that I will be the nurse in the back of Life Flight. So that's what I want to do.
So say that again, how you just said that. I just want to.
I want to be the nurse that's in the back of the Life Flight helicopter taking care of people on the way to the hospital.
Okay, so I want you to change the way you said that and say instead of that you want to be, I want you to say, I will be
I'm going to be
the
that
nurse. I'm like one of those weird people that subscribes to that. I'm like, don't put any kind of doubt into it, right? Obviously, there's a lot of work. You've already started the work, right? You've been, you said you were a nurse's aide for 16 years?
Yes, that was my first job in high school.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. Okay. And that's not an easy.
No, 'cause especially working in homes, you see the same people every day. You get attached. And then when something happens and they pass away, it's like losing. To me, I told everybody when I was in school I had 40 grandpas. All the guys that I took care of, I had 40 extra grandfathers. And
Okay.
it's the stories you hear and the things they tell you about. Can't get better education than that.
Yeah.
So, but I've always been the one that I sit, I listen, I take care of everybody else. And sometimes that's all they want is just somebody to listen.
Absolutely.
And this way, I feel being an EMT and then eventually a nurse and paramedic, those things, I don't get as attached because I'm not with them as long. I'm there at a crucial time when they need me, but I'm not there long enough to develop that connection where I'm heartbroken when something happens to that person.
Yeah, but you sort of like, by having that experience, that's what makes you even more compassionate than you already just are naturally, if that makes sense. And I think that, what was it about this program in particular where, you said overwhelming at first, which I think anything new, right? Especially when you're shifting out of a routine. So when you start something new, right, your routine is changing. So you've got this new routine, something that you want to do, a little overwhelming, but then there's that moment where something clicks, right? Do you happen to remember a specific situation where it did just kind of click for you and you started to get that like, oh yeah, this is exciting? And I'm assuming that happened. So
most of my stuff is just I've always been the one to take care of everybody. Throughout life, I took care of my siblings growing up and then my kids. And then my fiance was in a car accident last year, so I've been taking care of him. And then his parents had problems, so I've been taking care of them. And my cousin had cancer. I took care of her. God rest her, because she did not survive.
I'm sorry.
I took care of her. I helped take care of my aunt when she had cancer. It's just I'm the go-to person because I'm the rock. I can be stable and not break down and okay, you need to do this, you need to do that, let's go, we got this. And then at the end of the day, I go home and bake cookies with the kids or the nieces and nephews or now the grandkids.
Yeah.
And that's my relief. I go, do this, we're good. everybody's okay, everybody's around me that needs to be, and we're good.
But you didn't have like a specific moment during this, like EMT. Am I saying EMS to EMT?
EMT, yes.
EMT. I knew it was EMT, but I'm like, do I need to like put the EMS in there? You're like, no. Where you felt something shift, if that makes sense, from that initial feeling of like, oh, this is a lot, this is overwhelming, and then feeling that shift into everything that you just said, right? Obviously, you're a natural caregiver. You're there to help everybody, but I'm talking about you specifically, like for yourself. Like,
For me, I'd say when it really clicked that, yes, this is what I'm going to be doing, I can do this, is we were, say, about halfway through class, and my fiance's father ended up in the hospital. I had to take him up, and I get the phone call to go up and check on him. Had to call Slippery Rock EMS to come pick him up because he, for once in his life, willingly decided he was going to the hospital. And we get him up there, and then I get a call later that he was life-flighted to Erie because he was in basically cardiac arrest. His kidneys were shutting down. Everything was failing. So we get him up there, and then between him being up there, Mom wanting to go up and see him, but she doesn't drive. She's definitely not. I don't even think she's ever driven. But I had to go pick them up, run them up to the hospital, visit with Dad, and come back and do the studying late at night. And everybody just kind of looked at me and was like, I don't know how you're doing this. I was like, because this is what I'm going to do.
mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to help other people. And if I can't do it when it's this crazy in my own life, how am I going to help somebody else?
That's exactly what I was going for there. It's almost as if you're able to, and I don't want to say heal in a way, but it feels like personally, yeah, there's a lot going on. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about compassion, right? And you don't know what anyone else is going through. And you're able to sort of take your life experience, right, and see that it takes a village, right? It takes a lot of people, and you're part of that village now. You're you're a helper. They always say that in times of times of war. I think it was Mr. Rogers would say, like, look for the helpers.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you guys are so much more than that. But in all honesty, you're the ones that are like running towards the chaos, and there's people like going the other way. So that's a really special thing to have. And I think hopefully it's like healing for you in a way too. I brought that up. I know I had brought that up before. Maybe it's not that for some people. I'm sort of questioning that, I guess, myself with things that I do. Like, is this also healing things for me as well? But it has to be rewarding to know, like, this is what you're here to help people. You're here to help people in probably some of their hardest moments. I mean, what else would you like to share as far as your experience in the program? Because I do want to get a little bit more about that. Or do you guys want to, I don't know, like swap stories or swap experiences, things that you really loved about it that you were maybe surprised by? Was there anything that you were like, oh, okay, all right? Or did it just seem like you were just so inundated with information that you were just like,
It's a lot of information.
A lot.
oh, I imagine that it's a lot of information. Yeah.
The normal EMT course that we teach here is usually 16 weeks.
Okay.
So just to put that into perspective,
Yeah.
Our hybrid EMT course is 16 weeks long, and they're doing the entire same size book, same information in 8 weeks instead.
It's really great. It's a really great course.
Yeah.
Even if it's 8 weeks, fast paced, and you're here for 9 hours, it's good.
And he was in would it have been the third class?
He was actually in the first class.
The first class, and you were in the second class. Wow. Okay. So literally fresh,
yeah.
hot off the press.
I refer to my class as the guinea pigs.
The guinea pigs. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure that you were.
Because, yeah, a little bit. Because we were figuring out what worked, what didn't. Because basically after every instructor came in, it was, so do you guys like them? You want them back?
Mm-hmm.
We got the same thing.
Yeah.
Whenever Rob came in for their pediatric lecture, they all voted him off the island.
Oh, yeah. They were like,
Well, yeah, Rob came in and he's immediately like, my baby, my baby.
and you're like, well, yeah. I mean, and you're like, wait, what's happening? And they're like, oh, wait, I remember what I'm doing here. Well, there's a lot of amazing things. I'm going to make sure I put all of the, I'm going to put your email address
Yeah, that's amazing.
in here. I'll put it in the video as well. You can apply now at bc3.edu/EMS-Academy. Grant funded Academy participants get paid. Boom, stipend. I think this is a wonderful thing that we have here. I'm really glad that you reached out to me. I know Allie had reached out to me and we had a bunch going on. It was probably a week and a half. And I was like, oh, I have to call her back. I like had it sitting on my desk and I was like, these are things that I have to do. And I think about a week and a half had gone by and you immediately got back to me. So thank you for reaching out.
Thank you so much for having us.
Your next academy is in March, right? March 3rd to April 25th.
Yeah, that's what we're looking
8
at
weeks at the Butler County Community College main campus. Yeah. Anything else, Beth, that you'd like to say?
If anybody else is out there that's getting on up in age, don't think you can't do it.
Yeah, girl.
It shows my kids that they're having babies now, but eventually they can still go back to school and do whatever it is they decide they want to do, because I did it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Patrick.
Honestly, even if it's something that you feel like you're not going to enjoy, just come to the open house, talk to them, get some of the stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, come reach out to me. I'm a chatter. So we can sit here. I don't even care. We don't have to talk about the academy, but I would prefer to.
Yes. No, we want people to talk about the academy. Yeah. Yeah, it really just does amaze me what you guys do. And I just want to say thank you because it's not easy, but it's so necessary. And just keep on fighting the good fight, right?
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, you're welcome. Thank you for tuning in to Alter Ego. Join me every Monday for a new episode. And be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram at Alter Ego Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay kind.